Hi, many people ask me how I can tuna without using jars. I am no way a professional. I am not endorsing this. This is just how I do it, and I'm planning to show other people. You come from your albacore tuna loins to a canned bag. This is canned, it can sit on the shelf. You can put it in a 1-rate box and mail it around the world. And I do that. Our son in South Carolina says, "Dad, I'm out of smoked tuna." I smoke the tuna, can it, send it out. All good and done. Start out with, get your stuff ready. You're gonna need retort bags. You have to use retort bags. There's no other bag you can use. They make them 4, 8, and 16, but for canning tuna, you can only use 4 or 8 ounce bags. What I do is then write on my bag what's in it, whether it's smoked or just plain albacore tuna. And please excuse my handwriting. I always said I'm like with a doctor that's been drinking. A black Sharpie seems to be the only thing that lasts through the pressure canning process without going away. So that's what I use. And then what I do is to prep is then I open the bag, stick my hand in, and get it like this. And I just set them all here. And you're gonna wanna do 35 to 40 to fit in a standard Presto pressure canner. You can use Presto, you can use All-American, use what pressure canner you use. You're gonna have to can it just like jarred tuna, 100 minutes at 11 pounds. That's all there is to it. The other things you need, paper towels, a work surface that's clean. So I put fresh plastic every time on my work surface because I want it to be sterile. You need a scale that does ounces. Of course, a cutting board knife. And I found that a can that's opened on both ends is the best funnel for doing tuna because you're trying to keep it away from the sealed edge. The other thing is you have to use a chamber vacuum sealer, and you have to use one that the bar gets hot enough to seal the bags. This is a beautiful one. It's got 4, but it does not get hot enough to seal retort bags. I can use it for everything else. Yet you can use from vacuum seal. You can use, this is a Vever, $275, and it works great. Set it to your high settings for sealing temperature. Set it for a long time. I usually do about 22 seconds for the vacuum seal, and then let's see, sealing time is 4.1 seconds, and my vacuum time is 23 seconds on a high setting. Easy peas. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut up tuna into 8-ounce portions because that's what I choose to use here. And I'm gonna weigh and set them out in a level, and we'll be back. As you can see, I've got these separated in approximately 8 ounces. I don't go over 8. Sometimes it's 7.6, 7.8. I'm not selling commercially. It's just for our consumption. But the important thing is when you take your when your fillet out, you're often gonna have scales and maybe bloodline, or in this case, I can feel it right there. There's a bone right there. So you wanna go through it and pull make sure the bones are out of it, and make sure all the scales are off, cut out any bloodline. I'm really picky on my tuna, and so I'm cutting out that little piece of bloodline right there, just because it's gonna give you a really strong taste. So I'm doing this, I'm cutting it up, I'm weighing it. 7.5, there's 8 ounces on the nose. I set it in a pile. 13, so I know that's too much. Still 9, so I'll just cut another section off. 7.9, good enough. So this is extra, I'll be doing that in a minute. So once you get that done, to this point, you want to change your gloves out because you're going to deal with your bags. So I'm just going to put a pair of gloves on. And the next part's really just, this is all an assembly line. So I'm going to take my bag that I have albacore tuna written on it in black Sharpie. I'm going to take one of my piles of fish, and I'm going to put it in there. And I try to put it so it kind of lays down, if I can, in the bag. And that just makes it easier for vacuum sealing. Again, keep a couple paper towels around. They're great for wiping off scales. Wipe your finger, put it on there, it sticks. Then I'm going to come over here to my vacuum sealer. I'm going to fold it, put it in, and I'm going to let that go for a second while I do another one. Now, if I wasn't doing this for film, I would be doing 20 of them like this and then vacuum sealing. It's just a little easier. But for film, for this particular case, we're going to do this. Again, I'm going to make sure my hands are clean. I'll just do this. The great thing about this is you can pre-do. And if you want to check, wait about 5 seconds, then see if you can pull this apart. I've never had one of my seams fail. I've always had the factory seam fail if it fails at all. So I'm going to get the next one going. I'm going to take this one and I'm going to fold it in half, like this. And then this will go in my canner like this. So I have some more I've already done here. If you vacuum seal and you have some left over, you can throw them in the freezer and then vacuum seal them later. Just know you need to put the frozen ones on the bottom so they take a little bit more time to cook as you're warming it up. So I'm gonna lay these all out like this. And now it's just a game of Jenga. You want to fit as many of these in as you can, because as these cook in the canner, they're going to expand. And so when they expand, if they expand too much, they can break. So I'm going to do a lot. I do usually between 35 and 40, depending on what I'm doing. And I'm going to shove them in as tight as I can in 2 layers. You can also do a single layer and then take, sorry, not prepared. Then take your bottom, put it on top and put a lead weight on top or a stainless steel weight, and then cook. That'll just keep them from expanding too far. So I'm doing all this. And I am shoving them down as far as I can. And we'll be back in a minute when we got some more. Okay, now we've got them all vacuum sealed, folded in half. I've thawed out the ones that I had in the freezer. And usually when I do these, I do about 5 at a time, put them in the refrigerator until I got them all ready to go, and then I load my canner. Anything left over can sit in the refrigerator for a few days until I have another load. Or in this case, I'll do 2 loads today. Let me note, you can also do smoked fish, you can do meat, you can do vegetables in these. A lot of people make them for emergencies, any of that kind of things. Please follow, when canning, the times and pressures recommended by the FDA or your local state. Oregon State University here has a canning guide. Ball has a canning guide. They're all there. Follow them for times depending on what you're doing. So now I'm going to just continue my Jenga here, and I want to stuff as many of these as I can without plugging anything up. If you notice, if you look in there, you can still see how water gets between things. And that's because this is going to turn to steam, because we're going to get above the boiling point in here. And when I'm all done, and I've tested many times when I first started, my internal temperature in my package is over 185 degrees, which is what's required to kill all your bacteria for a certain amount of time. And in this case, we're going to do again for 100 minutes once I come up to pressure, and I steam for 10 minutes. So once it comes up, steam will start shooting out, and I'll let it shoot for 10 minutes before I put my weight on. And I found over the years that instead of using the weights that come with your canner, it's very nice to just buy the ones that come where you can adjust it to different weights. This is a 10 pound. It's going to be over 10 pounds the whole time it's cooking, and that's just because it starts, it'll rock and allow it to not go too high. But over the years, I've just found it to be so much easier than constantly adjusting your temperature so you're not up to, 100 pounds or 20 pounds constantly and blowing everything up. I've got my water in the canner, ready to go, just like you would with canning. I put about this much water in, and make sure you have enough. A couple years ago, I made a mistake and ran out of water. Not only did I throw away a canner, but I threw away a whole bunch of tuna I just done too. All right, so I've got them all stacked in there. I want to make sure that I'm going to be able to close my canner without having anything get in the way. I think I can put one more right there. And then what I'm going to do, pause it for a second. Then I'm going to take one of these, I'm going to put it on top. You don't have to, I didn't for many years, but I just like it because it makes sure that my vents don't get plugged. Okay, got my lock here, got my gauge here. I'm going to see if I'm smart enough to put this on. There we go. We're on. We're going to light it. Important with tuna, try to keep your clothes clean. Use something, because once tuna blood gets on you, it's really tough to get out of your clothes. Use stuff that you'll only use for tuna. These things here, this cutting board, this knife here, I only use for tuna, because trying to get the smell out of this cutting board, soak it in bleach for about 2 weeks and maybe you'll get it there. So I'm going to get this once I get my steam piling out and then let it go for 10 minutes, put my weight on. Once it gets to 11 pounds, I start my timer, 100 minutes at 11 pounds, and I'll see you then. Okay, as you see, we've done with 100 minutes, at 11 pounds. I've let it cool completely, about an hour. Taking my weight off, and I'm going to carefully open my lid. Might still have some steam in there. It's very important to let the bags cool completely, because these will blow up like a balloon. So what I like to do afterwards, I take it over here to the hose. And I just fill it full of cold water. Some of these bags are still a little puffy, but once you hit it with cold water, they shrink right down. Oh shit. Just lost my G rating. So I'll let these sit in cold water for just a minute or two, just to make them a little easier to handle. And then what I do once I'm done letting these soak is I pull them up, I straighten them out, and I look at my seams. I want to see if I had any failures anywhere. I didn't. That allows me to straighten it out. It's still warm, still a little pliable. This will get even tougher once it cools completely. And I'm just going to set these somewhere. I usually have a bin, and I'll set these in it and let them dry. And then you can put them in a box or a bag or wherever, store them on a shelf. They are completely canned until you use them. There's a little tear here. You just tear it, use it. Retort bags, they're available on Amazon or online. Just put in retort, R-E-T-O-R-T. Easy to find. And I hope you enjoyed the video.